PACK EXPO East returns to Philly in February of 2026. It's your East Coast connection for packaging and processing solutions. Be there to catch up on the latest industry advances, connect with suppliers, and land on the right solutions for your entire production line, from automation and sustainability to e-commerce and much more. Register today at packexpoeast.com. You're listening to Unpacked with PMMI, where we share the latest packaging and processing industry insights, research, and innovations to help you advance your business. Hi, and welcome to Unpacked with PMMI. I'm your host, Sean Riley. In this episode, Packaging and Processing Women's Leadership Network keynote speaker Alison Fragale breaks down the ideas behind her book, Likeable Badass, and why the mix of warmth and competence matters. She talks about power, status, the bias women still face in male-dominated fields, and shares simple tools like her 10-10-10 challenge to help you grow your influence and build real connections. Let's have a listen. So with all the fancy introductions out of the way, welcome to the podcast, Alison.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, the pleasure is all ours. So you touched on a lot of concepts and tools to utilize during your presentation, and there's two that you discussed that I want to touch on right away, and I'm torn on which way to go first. But since the presentation was literally titled Likeable Badass, How Women Get the Success They Deserve, probably makes sense to start by explaining the concept that you have of what exactly is the Likeable Badass.
Yeah, so Likeable Badass is just my catchy term for the things that we're always trying to evaluate when we pay attention to other people. So when we perceive people, we always try to judge two things. And the first is, do they care? Are their intentions good? Are they going to help us make our lives better? And we respect that and we value that. So we enjoy and are drawn to people who are going to have qualities like being not just likable, but warm, honest, sincere, helpful, because those things make other people's lives better.
Right.
The second thing we're drawn to, or we pay attention to, is can we rely on people? So it's nice that you care, but I also need to know that you can deliver. That if I put a task in your hands, I can trust it'll be done. So if I think that you're competent, capable, organized, persistent, decisive, I think, okay, you're going to be a person who can execute. So the idea is we always are judging people on, are they other oriented and are they results oriented? And when people show up that way, they get good outcomes from other people. Namely, they get respect from other people. They have influence over other people. And so a lot of what I talk about in my research, in the book, in the talk, is about how do we communicate those things authentically and easily so that we get the maximum kind of credit and recognition from our audience we deserve.
Is there nonverbal ways of doing that, or is it all just interaction?
People get to judge whatever they want to judge, even if that's not the thing you want them to pay attention to. Right. So I talked about the fact that I'm not a traditionally very good smiler. And people often ask me if I'm upset. Why are they doing that? Because they're looking at an expression on my face and they're making a judgment about how I might feel inside. We do it all the time. So nonverbal behaviors are clues to do we care and are we capable? And then there's also what you call paraverbal. So things that are not your words, but your tone of voice, your volume, your pitch. These are all things that people would take as clues to, are you angry? Do you know what you're talking about? Those things. And then, of course, the words we speak, the interactions we have. So yes, everything is a signal.
Interesting. Okay. And I really want those who didn't attend your session to watch the on-demand video that we're going to have up at pmmi.org. What is the difference between power and status?
Yeah. This is why I wrote the book. I talk about predominantly about status. What is status? It's how much other people respect us and highly regard us. So a person that we talk about as having status is a person that in their environment is highly respected by the audience that matters to them. And that's an important thing. We all covet respect. All human beings want to be respected for good reason. And one is it's a big source of influence. If you don't respect somebody, you will never listen to anything they have to say. So you can't be influential if you don't have the respect of your audience, which is often why, as a parent of teenagers, they will do nothing you tell them because it doesn't matter how educated you are. They don't respect your opinion. And they often don't think you know what you're doing. And sometimes they don't think you care about them in that way. Like you have their best interests at heart.
Right.
So they don't listen. Same thing at work or in any other dimension. And so power is similar and different. Power is you control resources that other people value. So if at work you control the budget, or you can hire and fire people, or you can give people good performance reviews or bad ones, you can set their work schedule, you can make decisions. These are all resources that have value. And that is also something we covet. We like to be in control and be able to have autonomy. And it also is a source of influence. If I use the teenager example, one of my teenagers drives. If I hold the car keys, that's a resource that he values. He'll be more influenced by me in that moment if he wants the resource. So power and status are similar in that way, but they're different in that status is not something you can hold. So I can hold those car keys. I can be the boss. I can control the budget, even if other people don't like it. With status, you can't force other people to value you. You can influence it, but you cannot demand it. And so it requires us to really pay attention to other people, to our audience, to say, how are they reacting?
Okay. And you provided a really good example with women on the Supreme Court as a case where they have power, but not necessarily status. Can the opposite be true, where someone has this high amount of status and respect, but has such low formal power in the organization? And is there a way to sort of, how do you leverage that to gain power? How can you flip that?
Yeah, so that can definitely happen. You can be a really respected person. You don't control anything. Oftentimes at work, there'll be somebody who's like a real subject matter expert in something. They may not have the highest position and they can't force anyone to do anything, but everyone goes to them because they know. They have the experience, they have the wisdom. And so, yes, you can have status without power. It turns out that's actually not a terrible place to be because you're generally very influential. And status is a great springboard to getting power. We like to put control or resources in the hands of people we respect and value. So if you try to negotiate for more power, once you're already really well respected, that's a pretty good situation to be in. It's the other one that gives me a lot more concern, which is you have power, but no one respects you. Right. And I've done a lot of research in that area, and that one is the one that ends up being miserable for people. Because when people see you as the resource holder and they don't respect you, they start treating you poorly. They start trying to figure out how to go around you and cut you out of the power circles. And we see a lot of evidence. Anybody can be in that situation. But one of the reasons I talk about that for women is that it's even more likely a woman could be in that situation. Right. Because of the status that's associated with gender, is if you are a woman who's a power holder and you haven't really cultivated that respect of your audience, we see a lot of evidence that women are treated with disrespect in high power positions, and it's a reason they leave organizations. So that one concerns me a lot more.
We're in a very male-dominated industry, the packaging and processing. I know most industries are male-dominated to begin with, but we're in a highly dominated one. So women are already facing an unconscious bias. What are practical ways where they can highlight points of similarity or things with their colleagues who automatically assume she's a woman, she's different?
Totally. It's a great question. Yeah. And I will say, yes, a lot of organizations, a lot of industries are male dominated, but here's the good news and bad news. It really wouldn't matter because when we look at bias of groups toward groups, if I use gender specifically, bias toward women is not something men do. It's something people do, including other women. So the idea of the gender makeup of one's industry or company being like a source of disadvantage or advantage is not probably as big a deal as people think. But what is an issue, and you've hit on it, is if I look different than most of the people I work with, it's very natural that their brains will assume, oh, you must be different. You don't look like me, so you must not share anything in common. And that doesn't serve us because in psychology, greatest basis of liking and attraction that psychology has ever documented is similarity. We like people when they're like us. I just went to go see the Chicago Cubs get horribly beat by the Milwaukee Brewers in Milwaukee on Saturday. Okay, I have a family of Cubs fans. What are all the Cubs fans doing who do not know each other? They are hugging each other.
It's literally the thing that I thought of when you said that with sports teams.
Yes,
so it's very interesting that you went there.
Stranger on the street? Absolutely not. Oh, but if they're wearing your team shirt, 100%, they're getting a hug. That's the power of similarity. Yes, if we are in a situation where we look different than people around us for whatever reason, one of the things we can do as very aware, skilled influencers is to say, I need to draw out the genuine similarities between me and this person. And when I do that, it'll be good for both of us. I'll actually like them more and they'll like me more. And that will be the beginning of building a relationship. And so I encourage people to engage in the chit chat with purpose, not just to say you're a person who chit chats, but what can I learn about you? Talk about yourself a little bit, right? So I always will drop as I talk about my weekend or things that I identify with. Like, now you just learned I root for the Cubs.
Exactly.
So when that happens, it gives other people a chance to say, oh, wait, me too. And then the more you share about yourself, the greater the likelihood someone will see themselves in you.
Yeah, you dove a lot into self-promotion and getting others to promote you, which I think touches on what we were just talking about. Are there simple, I think you called them small deposits, they're low effort that busy professionals can make for people to start that connection or start earning other people's respect?
Yeah, I am a huge proponent of making things super effective and also super easy, because we are busy people with jobs and lives, and we can't, as much as we care and as much as we want to build our status, it's not our full-time endeavor. Coaching people to have the mentality of finding ways to be of service to people from the instant you meet somebody, even if, and especially if, you think there's nothing that you're going to need from them in the future. Because when you're new in a relationship and you don't have anything you need, building your status and being giving, it's easy and it's not hard if you just coach yourself to do it. So I always say, from the moment you're chatting with somebody, even if you're at an event like PMMI, you think, I'm never going to see somebody again, even in a few minutes, you could be memorable. You could add value. So I listen to people when they talk to me. I try to figure out, what do they care about? And I try to think, what's a simple thing that I might be able to offer right now that could be useful to them? Whether it's an introduction to somebody else in my network, some other resource, like something I've read or a piece of content that might be interesting to them based on something they've told me that they've done. I just have this mentality of, if I can do anything that makes your life better when I'm a stranger and you have very low expectations of me, that's a great way to start to show you that I care about you. So I'm willing to do something and that I know things. And that is, looking for those moments in introductions is good. And I think another one is starting with things that you legitimately like to do and think about how you could turn them into service for other people. So one example was a guy that told me that he liked to read. He likes to read a lot of nonfiction. He did not do that for anybody but himself. And he naturally took notes when he read. That was how he retained the information. Okay. But he also noticed a lot of times his colleagues complained that they didn't get to read as much as they like to. Everyone likes to read, but some people don't make the time for it. So he said, I started typing up my notes and just saying to people, oh, if you ever want my summaries of what I've written, I'm happy to send them to you. He said it was zero work for me, except maybe a minute, because I had to put a heading on it that I otherwise wouldn't have. And then I started sending them to people. And then people would ask me, oh, have you read anything new lately? And it was a point of conversation. It made me valuable. It gave me a reason to reach out to people in between asking them for something, to say, oh, I read another book, and it was a way to stay in front of people. So then he just started developing a list of people in his world who wanted his book recommendations. And the way that started was simply, let me just look at what I'm already doing that is easy for me, and how could I easily turn it into service for other people? I think you find a lot of examples like that when you start to have the mentality of, let me figure out how to do this.
What if you're like I think you called him a fearful self-promoter, and maybe you've touched on all the tools for that, but what is the easiest, I don't want to make a fool out of myself, I want to be risk averse, for lack of a better word, way of practicing this. I don't want to seem boastful by talking about things that I do. Like, you're just not that person. How do you bust out of that?
Yeah. So one is, you have to practice, and you have to practice in low risk situations. So if you're really fearful, I probably wouldn't go into work and start trying new things, because the downside, if you mess it up, is just going to feel too big for you. The whole thing feels scary. I go into places where you don't really know anybody. If I'm at a networking thing, or I'm talking to strangers, or I'm at some random wedding I had to go to and I have to make talk with people, that's low risk. I'm at the airport. I never have to see these people again if I don't want to. But I can strike up conversations with people. I can still learn about them. I can still be helpful. I could still talk about myself. I can still do all of those things. Those things are just as normal at a wedding as they are with your colleagues at work. And so practicing in low risk is one thing. The other thing I would say to people who are really fearful is just go around and start talking up other people and bragging on other people. That doesn't take any courage because it's fun to brag on other people.
Right.
But when you brag on other people, they'll brag on you back. So talking up people, I think, is a very extremely low risk but high impact way, because it doesn't necessarily matter that you're talking yourself up. It just matters that other people know how caring and capable you are, which can come from other people too. But other people are much more likely to do it if you're also doing it for them. Or if I ever had to ask them for something, their mind is, I owe Alison. She's always, talking me up. So it makes it so much easier when you do need to pick up the phone to be able to do it because you're a person who's already invested in that relationship. So I would talk up other people if talking about yourself is terrifying.
Very cool. That's a great way of doing it. I could talk to you all day because I find that this is fascinating and the stuff that you've been telling me has been fascinating, but I don't want to take up all of your day. You discussed this 10-10-10 challenge, which I think really ties in a lot of what we've been talking about. So could you really just touch on that real quick on what exactly that is and what the goals are for that?
Yeah. So the idea was really about how do we get other people that really value us to go out and talk us up more, because that will really build this status, the idea that people respect us. And anytime this happens, like a lot of times when I stand on stages, a lot of times it's because someone has introduced me. Someone has said, oh, you're looking for speakers, you're doing something. Oh, you haven't met Alison? Alison's amazing. When that person vouches for me, they've built my status for me. So that's what we want for each of us. We want people to do that. And so the 10-10-10 challenge is 3 things that if we do them just habitually will bring more of this kind of status building into our lives. And the first is meet 10 new people. I always say people cannot talk you up if they don't know you exist. Right. So as we start to meet people, we start to increase the base of people who could potentially go out there and say good things about us. So meeting new people, even if they don't stay in your life forever, just exercise the muscle of constantly meeting people, not just at work and not just in your industry, because people who can open doors from you could truly be anywhere. Okay. So step 1 is meet 10 new people. Second is make 10 of these small deposits. Do 10 easy things that make people's lives better with no expectation of return. Just do 10 things for people. It can be something as simple as I've recommended a restaurant to you. Great. And the third one is that I referenced to talk 10 people up because it'll come back to us. Or for the not fearful self-promoters, the ones who think I'm already pretty good at this.
Right.
Instead of that, you could ask 10 people to talk you up, meaning you explicitly ask them to go out and say good things about you, which fearful people will never do that. But if you're saying, no, I'm really good at talking myself up, the reason I love this is if you're asking people who already value you, they're really happy for the clarity that you've given them an easy task that is completely aligned with what they believe, which is, I already do really respect you. I think you're great. And you want me to tell someone else that you're great? Sure. Thanks for letting me know. So that's the 10-10-10. Meet 10 new people, make 10 small deposits of value into people's lives, and either talk up 10 people and or ask 10 people to talk you up. I say do it within a week. It keeps you motivated, but it's not impossible. Just to start flexing those 3 muscles of things that you can incorporate into your daily life.
Very cool. I love that. I really appreciate this discussion. It was great. I thank you for giving the presentation and for taking extra time here to come on and talk to me about this. Thanks again, Alison, for coming on the podcast.
My pleasure.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Unpacked with PMMI. If you liked what you heard, be sure to follow or subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. That way, you won't miss any of the industry insights coming your way. While you're there, we'd really appreciate a rating or review. Want more? Visit pmmi.org/podcasts for all of our past episodes and additional resources. Thanks again for tuning in. I'll see you next time.